Coming up on Unwritten.
It dawned on me that is the reason that I was put on this earth to live a life, which is to uplift and enrich the lives of other people.
See the best in others, to find the best in yourself.
If you approach that with the mentality that you have something to learn from them, it gives you an opportunity to grow tremendously. In America, 60% of adults were abused in some form or fashion as a child, whether that be physical, sexual, or psychological. If somebody is a victim of abuse, they're 66% more likely to become an abuser themselves.
People who chase money, it's like there's never enough,
I spent the better part of my first career chasing money, and I was miserable. Just be kind to one another.
I noticed your email quote, give generously, love unconditionally, and see the best in others, to find the best in yourself. Can you explain that to me?
Well, we'll go backwards through that. See the best in others so you can find the best in yourself. Every conversation you have, every person that you meet, if you approach that with the mentality that you have something to learn from them, it gives you an opportunity to grow tremendously. And sometimes people give us all sorts of opportunities to see negative things, but if you're looking for the positive, it creates really good relationships with people. It gives both the opportunity to grow, and it removes many different areas that you can have for conflict. Giving generously is one of those things. It's not always money. It could be time. It can be effort. It's whatever somebody has the ability to give. There's sort of an unwritten rule of the universe that when you give, you're given back in folds. Of course, that should never be the intent, but going to the other point about seeing the best in others, when you give generously, whether that be your time, your energy, your mental faculties,
undivided
or even
attention,
money or things, it creates a bond, and it really allows for that relationship to thrive, and it gives such an amazing feeling of good to the person. And then love unconditionally. There's so much hate in the world right now. We have to find ways to think about, I'm a man of faith. I believe that we're all put here by a creator. I call him God. I know he goes by different names, but he created everybody. He gave everybody a purpose, and everybody has their place in the world. Everybody has a unique gift that they can bring. And when we can find reasons to love somebody, we could ignore the differences, because if we were all the same, this would be a really, really boring place. We're supposed to be different. We're supposed to have those unique characteristics. And when we can celebrate that rather than find reasons to create that as division, it makes everything a better place. So when you can love generously, or love unconditionally, give generously, and see the best in others, it creates a harmonious relationship with everybody that you can be around.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I had to learn because of this whole thing going around in politics and like media and propaganda, I had to learn just really like deep compassion, because it's like, for me, when I first like heard of this whole movement with the pronouns and whatever gender confusion, my first thought was just like, I don't understand. Like, it's just like there's just two, like, we're just man and woman, like people who think they're confused, it's just maybe they're just going through something like mentally, or maybe they just need help to like not be confused anymore. And I think my opinion, I think the media is just, it's made in a way that breeds more confusion. It's like let's just make people more confused and have more propaganda to say like it's okay to be confused. Um, and this, my point is, this whole point was just to, for me, it taught me to just have compassion for those types of people and understand
That's
that
right.
they may be going through something and I don't fully understand it, but I could still have compassion for whatever they're going through.
Right. One of the things I just published a book last month, and one of the points that I make in there, chapter 2, is all about abuse. And
Mm,
I've drawn some conclusions. Some of my conclusions might be a little bit unpopular, and I didn't put some of them into the book. But 60% of Americans, and this may be broader around the rest of the world, but in America, 60% of adults were abused in some form or fashion as a child, whether that be physical, sexual, or psychological. And if somebody is a victim of abuse, they're 66% more likely to become an abuser themselves. But
mm,
how that abuse manifests as we graduate into adulthood can be in forms of identity confusion, gender confusion, things like that, or it could be substance dependency. It can be how we behave around our families, our friends, our colleagues. Um, that emotional reaction. There are so many different manifestations of that, and every person's psychology is a little bit different. That's why you can have two people who were raised in the same environment, went through the same trauma as children, and come out with two completely different outcomes. That happens all the time. But to your point, if we continue to just uh, lean into this confusion and say that there's not something wrong there, what we're doing is we're ignoring the source of that confusion to begin with. And I
yeah.
think it would be much better to approach that in the point of, let's give care to these people, because like I said, they're still put here for a purpose. How they identify themselves really is irrelevant. What is relevant is, let's get them some help and untie some of the knots that they may have developed through a trauma in their past, and let's provide support to one another. And
Mm,
if that means that that changes their identity at some point, maybe somebody uses different pronouns or has a different identity, or uh, has damaged relationships in their past, whatever the circumstance is, so be it. But
mm,
like, as a victim of abuse myself, I've gone through therapy, and my whole personality has really changed as a result of being able to identify with the sources of uh, what triggers this response out of me when somebody does X or Y or Z, right? Uh,
yeah.
by being able to understand where that comes from, it allows
Mhm.
me to respond in a more mature, professional, and loving way.
Yeah, 100%. I always tell people it's like if you're dealing with somebody who gets easily triggered by certain topics, then there's a part of them that hasn't truly healed and moved on, because somebody who's truly at peace and healed, they won't get triggered by, I mean, you may get a triggering like feeling, but it won't be as like an explosion or a defense mechanism like it used
Right.
to.
Well, there's certain things in our systems that are wired, right? If you
Mm,
study the brain, the amygdala is the part of your brain that allows you to get quote unquote triggered, right? It shuts
mm,
down the logical side of your brain, and that's where a fight or flight mechanism
mm,
comes from. That's hardwired. That's true to everybody. We're all emotional creatures. We have the
mm,
ability to feel emotions. We have the ability to get triggered, but some of the major responses that we get, like somebody who goes into a road rage situation, or if somebody is so repulsed by the opposite sex that they choose to live a homosexual lifestyle because
mm,
of sexual abuse in their past, for example. Those are the types of traumas that we can deal with and help them to be able to untie the knots of. But
Mm,
if you and I were in a conversation and we got angry with one another, there's still going to be that triggering response. That's
yeah.
perfectly natural and normal. And now we're talking about communication versus the psychological treatment of a past abuse or a trauma, PTSD, things like that.
Yeah. So JP, you wrote this book called Success Unleashed, correct? Um, I want to
Yep.
know like what made you want to write this book, and what I really want to know is like what did that journey look like leading up to writing this book?
It looks like I'm having some internet issues, so I think I got most of the question. You're asking about the book and what led me to write it and what the journey looked like. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. Yeah. So I wrote Success Unleashed, Mastering Your Life's Purpose. It was published last month, July 2024. And it started out, I opened a business to become a professional speaker. And it's not just about speaking and getting on stage, because I do have a message to be able to help people with the traumas of their past and understanding what abuse can do in their lives. But uh, when I was originally doing my keynotes, they were about career development. How do you advance your career? How do you take the next step? Or how do you do a career change after you've climbed the corporate ladder and found that it was leaning against the wrong building? Uh, so a coach of mine challenged me to write a book because in the speaking world, a book is your calling card. That's your business card, if you will. And so I decided to sit down and write it. The process was amazingly fast, but it was one of the biggest growth opportunities I've ever had. I sat down to write a book on career development, which is partially why the name is Success Unleashed. Is it's about achieving success in your life. But what I discovered is that you can actually, through the processes and methodologies and tactics that I put into the book, you can actually discover what your purpose is for living. I was writing, it was chapter 3 was the chapter that I was writing when this epiphany happened to me. I was putting together this thought, and I went through with my coach, and we did the method that I have in the book. And I discovered that one of the goals that I had was actually incorrect. It wasn't the right goal for me. So
Mm,
I was able to shift my goal, rename, instead of going to point A, I wanted to go to point B. And then I went through the process again, and I discovered that that was actually the appropriate goal. But as
mm,
I set more goals in this process, I discovered that there was a little thread that ran between all of them. And it dawned on me that is the reason that I was put on this earth to live a life, which is to uplift and enrich the lives of other people. So
mm,
you have your own purpose. And if you can go through the process of writing these goals and identifying, one, is it the correct goal for you in the first place? Uh, but getting down to that foundational level and seeing, well, what's actually driving that goal to be your goal? So
mm,
your purpose for living is going to be different than mine, and that's good. Again, that goes back to that spice of life. By having all the variety and the differences in people, you're supposed to have a different goal than me. But
mm.
as you set more of those goals, you'll actually find that thread. And that's where I came to the realization that it's not a book just on career success, because not everybody has a career. Some people are retired and they still have a purpose.
Yeah, I don't have
Maybe
a career
somebody,
right now.
well, and that's okay. You still have a purpose. So if
Yeah.
you can set goals using the process that's in this book, I invented a goal setting method that I call WISE goals, which is kind of a knockoff of SMART goals, which is generally accepted as the standard for goal setting in businesses.
Hmm.
WISE goals take it to a different level, because like Jim Collins would say, you should have these big, hairy, audacious goals, or BHAGs is what he calls them. But if you're setting a goal that's so big that you can't really feel that it's realistic or attainable, smart goals go out the window.
Uh,
So, what
yeah.
wise goals do is they help you to do root cause analysis, figure out what is your goal and why is it there in the first place. But then rather than saying, okay, my goal is to be an executive at a company, for example, instead of saying that, you can say, my goal is to be an executive of a company because it supports this need in my life. And then
Mm,
we go through a psychological principle that I call subconscious programming. Your subconscious mind is 500,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. So I don't know about you. That's the part of my brain that I want
wait,
working to
where'd you
help me
get
achieve
that
my
data
goals.
from?
So when you do the subconscious programming and find these goals, you'll see opportunity everywhere you go. Did you lose
Mm,
me?
a little bit, but I got you. Um,
Am I back now?
no, I got you. You're talking about the uh how the subconscious mind is 500,000 or 500 times.
500,000, a 500,000 times more powerful. So when you can program your subconscious mind, it goes to work for you. So
Mm,
the writing process was really a learning process for me. It started, like I said, with how do we take our careers to a different level, or change our career, or find a career, and that changed into, well, what goals are important to you, and how do you achieve them? That can be relationships, it can be familial, it can be your volunteer organizations, or business that you're running, or your podcast, or whatever area of life you can define success, or you can define goals. We
mm,
can actually use that goal setting process to truly define it and help your brain go after it. But there's also a mindset that has to be employed with it, because you'll see opportunities everywhere, but you have to have the
mm.
correct mindset to pursue those opportunities. And both of those principles are in this book.
Yeah, there's a lot that you just covered, but I think like I just made a solo podcast last week about the the environment and like what you're influenced by. And basically it kind of is what you said about how you have to find what you want to do, what your goals are. And I think we often get influenced by, friends, society, social media, um, idols, influencers, um, the pressures of your parents, especially young adults. You have these expectations. Um, how do you, I guess, start to find your own path in that, and how do you like really start to like take action on these goals?
What a great question. I love that question, because a lot of people, myself included, chose career paths based on what they thought they should do. I heard a
Mm,
story about a young man who he wanted nothing more than to be a fitness trainer. He was just
mm,
he loved the human body, he loved health and fitness, and his family said, "Well, you don't want to make that career choice. That's not going to pay you well. You won't be able to provide for your family. You need to go to law school." So, following the expectation of his parents, he went to law school, and he was miserable. He was struggling on all of his classes, and he made it all the way up to about 6 months before his bar exam. He was that close, and he said, I just can't see myself being a lawyer for the rest of my life. So he actually dropped out of law school, having made it that far. He
it's
enrolled in a
crazy.
different school without his parents being aware of it, He studied sports medicine and kinesiology, and he went and he started his own personal training business and gym. And he went to his parents and he said, "Look, I made this decision, and I was so scared to tell you because I thought you'd be disappointed in me." And the parents' response was what any parent's response should be: is, "We're not disappointed in you. We're disappointed in ourselves for you feeling that much pressure." The
Mm,
pressure exists whether it's right or wrong. And people make decisions either out of a lack of understanding, or they have pressure, or that maybe it's a financial decision not to go to the right school that'll give them the skills that they need.
mm-hmm,
And earlier I'd said climbing the corporate ladder to discover that it's leaning against the wrong building. A lot of people do things that they're not passionate about
mm-hmm,
because of that pressure or expectations or a lack of understanding or knowledge. And where my focus is really people that are mid-career and sometimes early career, because let's face it, a lot of college students have no idea where they want to go in life. So those are the two demographics that I really focus my
uh,
energy on, is to help people understand what drives them, that foundational element of their goals, to help them write goals in such a way that they understand that it's fitting their purpose. And for people
mm,
that are mid-career, how do you make the transition? Like myself, I was a robotics engineer for 14 years. How did I make the change from being a robotics engineer to being a software executive, or a sales executive of a software company? That is not a normal career path. But it was because I was able
oh,
to
I
make
lost you
that
there for a little
change,
bit.
and what I've learned through it and how I can engage with other people, that helped me develop that mindset that I talk about, that I call a bias mindset, which
Mm,
allows people to have a bias for action. And even when it isn't comfortable, even when it doesn't feel good, if you take appropriate steps that support your purpose and your goals that are aligned with that purpose, you can do anything, including starting a business, changing your career, uh, whatever drives you. Of course, I'm a little bit more business minded, but there are so many different avenues for success out there. All of those can be supported when you've got the correct mindset and you understand why you were given life to draw breath in the first place.
yeah, and I also think it's about like kind of switching your mind a little bit from the scarcity mindset into like a growth and abundance mindset. Because whenever you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're lacking, you know, you're more into this mindset where like you can't do it because you're lacking something. Um, but I think if you learn how to uh, see the opportunities in every moment and see the growth and learn from every moment, even if it's a tough time. I mean, there's like this like biblical quote or something where it's like you have to suffer to understand, and I think all of life is a form of suffering. You're gonna suffer in some form or another, and I think in those moments of suffering is an opportunity to learn more about yourself, learn more about what direction you want to take in life, and not as much about the pain itself, but about the growth that can come afterwards.
Right. And I'm trying to remember another quote that's very similar to that. Um, you can choose the pain of education, or you can choose the pain of not being educated. Either
Mm,
way, there's pain involved, but one has a very different outcome than the other. And maybe there's somebody who can't afford to go to college or go back to college, or maybe they've grown up in poverty and they don't understand, how to live a life of financial abundance. So they do live hand to mouth and they have that scarcity mindset out of necessity. You know what? The library is still free. You can get an education without having a degree behind it.
yeah.
I was very, very fortunate in my early 20s. I had a gentleman come in and out of my life, and I can't remember even his name at this point, but I remember one thing that he said that stuck with me forever, and I still apply this today. He said, "Leaders are readers." I was
Mm.
amazed that I took that as advice, because I was always I grew up with that scarcity mindset, and I had it conditioned into my brain from a very early age that leaders were just people that sat up in an ivory tower behind a mahogany desk and barked out orders all day, and they didn't actually know how to do anything. That was the mentality that was taught to me when I was young, and I adopted that as a young adult. So I wanted nothing to do with leadership. But
Mm.
this one person who was just so influential, he he just said, "Leaders are readers," and he said it all the time. Leaders are readers. Leaders are readers. And even though I still to this day have difficulty picking up a book and reading, I'm a slow reader. It's funny because I'm an
Same.
author,
Yeah, same here.
but I just adopted that mindset, and I picked up personal growth books. I've read hundreds of personal growth books, and I found subjects that interested me, and I saw these little threads that were running throughout them, especially in leadership, or on the topic of leadership. It was talking about caring for other people. It was talking about finding mentorship. It was serving others. And it was so contrary to what I had heard about leadership growing up and what I experienced early in my career. I had some really bad bosses that supported the inputs that I was given during childhood.
Mm.
But then I had a life circumstance happen where my career had to change. Like I said, I went from robotics to software. And when I found
Mm.
myself in a corporate environment, wearing shirts like this and a tie and all sorts of stuff like that every day for work, I was expecting to see the suits, in their mahogany desks and towers. I was expecting to see that. Instead, what I found is leaders who would come alongside me and say, "Okay, JP, here, we're going to help you. We're going to teach you what you need and give you the tools to be successful." And they understood the family circumstances that I was in at the moment, and they were supportive when I was going through challenges there. And finally, I got to see the example of leadership that was in these books, and it was contrary to everything that I was taught by the
Mm.
people that were around me and my own experiences. And I realized that there's a lot of truth in those books that I was then able to apply in my life. And in the past, 8, 9 years since that event happened, my life has radically transformed, because I've come to the point of understanding that what I was taught when I was young wasn't necessarily true. It might have been true to the circumstances by the people that were teaching it,
Mm.
but it's not a universal truth. And when you can have that breakthrough moment and understand that what you were taught isn't necessarily correct, and you have the freedom to move around your life and be influenced by some really heavy hitters in this world, and whatever area of life you choose to pursue, whether that be music or faith or the corporate world or family or whatever your interests are, whatever your purpose is, when you have the freedom to discover that you don't have to be a lawyer, you can be a nutritionist and physical therapist, or personal trainer. You don't have to be a construction worker. You can be a musician, or you can be a lawyer. You can be a doctor. You can do whatever you want.
Mm.
And if you don't have the money to do it right now, just go to the library and go to that personal growth or that self help section and pick up a book. That's free.
Yeah, that's true. I think that story it's a big uh proponent to the impact that people can have in your life. Even though, like, I don't know if you're still in touch with this guy, but
Like I said, I can't remember his name.
yeah, like, even that, like, it's just a big, like, you don't sometimes you don't understand the impact that you can have on somebody. And in that moment, he had a profound impact that kind of changed the directory of your mindset and your life. And I think
Well,
just
the
becoming
funny thing
aware
is,
of
it
that.
took me 15 years to figure it out.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
But yeah, I just wanted to say like it if you're aware of how much you can impact people, I think you'll begin to do less negative impacting versus positive impacting because once you're aware, you don't want to. I mean, I'm sure like whoever's listening, you probably had a moment where, like you were saying, like the rager, or somebody just pissed you off at work, and then like you're just frustrated the whole rest of the day, and you're just complaining about it, and your whole day's ruined. Or um, I don't know, if you have a dog and your dog crapped on the floor and you stepped in it, and then you're just pissed off the whole day. Um, I think if you come at it from just a self awareness and of your emotions and the world around you, you'll begin to do less, like less of the negative mindset and scarcity mindset, and more of the positive, understanding, compassionate mindset.
Right. And you keep in mind too, you never know what another person that you're interacting with is going through. Maybe they're the one that stepped in the dog crap in the morning,
Yeah.
and their day was ruined because they keep reliving that moment, and they're just ticked off. And maybe that's why they cut you off in traffic, is because they had to clean up the mess and it made them late for
Oh
work.
yeah.
So if we assume that the other person's just being a jerk at work or in
Yeah.
traffic or whatever, without considering the fact that maybe they had a circumstance, maybe they just found out that their spouse was cheating on them, maybe they stepped in dog crap, maybe they got rear-ended on the way to work. You don't know what somebody's circumstances are
Mm-hmm.
and how they're going to react as a result. Because if somebody's in a particularly stressful or tense situation, or they're going through something very emotional, or whatever it is, if you assume that they're in the same state of mind as you, you're already wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But if you assume the best in them, and try to approach every circumstance with understanding,
Mm-hmm.
and ask open-ended questions and engage them and look for the best in them, one, it gives you a much better chance at being able to have a positive conversation with that person, and
Mm-hmm.
it can de-escalate a situation where you might be getting frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part is, it can be that moment for that person where somebody saw them in a moment where they were so aggravated and so frustrated, and just they didn't know how to deal with that. But you might be able to be that spark of life that gives them that pause and that rest and that reset. In
Mm-hmm.
February of this year, I had one of the absolute worst months of my life. I
Mm-hmm.
I got told something. I thought that I was going to lose my job. Then I had one of my dogs pass away unexpectedly. Then
Oh
my,
man.
my septic line in my house backed up and my basement flooded, and I had to do a full remodel. This is
Oh,
all in a span of about 2 weeks. And it was frustrating. I was in a very escalated, frustrated
stressful
state of
state.
mind.
Yeah.
But I had some friends who were able to come alongside me and say, I can support and help you. And I understand the pain that you're in right now from dealing with all these different traumas, all in such a short period of time. And it was because somebody had compassion and was able to walk me through that circumstance. Losing a pet is
Yeah.
terrible by itself, or
Yeah.
losing a job is terrible by itself, or having a $10,000 remodel of your house because you just had the septic line back up, that's terrible by itself. Put it all together, who's going to deal well with that? I'm
Yeah,
human.
those are like the the best times to have like empathy for somebody,
Right.
And I think the people who don't have that, where they're well, I'm going through my own crap too. It's like maybe like that that is hard to deal with too, because there's some people that are close to you that will act that way as well. And I think if you have people like that, you just have to distance yourself, because you need empathy in those moments. You know, I mean, you don't need it, but it makes those moments easier.
Right. Well, there's a time to distance. If somebody's just being negative and they don't have justification, that's one thing. If somebody's going through a hard time, we shouldn't distance. That's when
Mm,
we should go in, come alongside them. And sometimes we don't even have to say anything. And us as men, we might have the tendency to just go in and fix the problem, right? Sometimes we just need to be there beside somebody and maybe lend them a hand as they're mopping up the water, or you
mm.
know, give them a shoulder to cry on if they're going through something really emotional. It doesn't always require words, it just requires presence. And
Especially for men, like
yeah,
men are also emotional creatures, but we were like, I don't know, like society and culture, we have this expectation of just like sucking it up and like just suck it up and like truck along. And then I think that's also not healthy, where it's like you have these people who just bottle up their emotions all the time and then they'll
yeah.
explode. And that's not good either.
Well, I forget what show it was on. I was watching a an interview at some point, and one of the contributors to that show said, "We're all emotional, men, women. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. How we express our emotion is different because women cry,
Mm.
and men's tears don't fall out of our eyes; they fall out of our mouths. We yell, we scream, we get angry."
Uh,
And I thought that was such a brilliant way to put it, because I find myself doing that all the time. I almost never cry,
mm.
but I will yell and when I'm in that escalated situation. But now that I'm aware of that, it took me decades to learn that about myself. But now that I'm aware of it, I can be more subtle, or I can take that breath before I say
Yeah,
something
just
that I'll
breathe.
say.
Sometimes
And
that's all you need is like a deep breath, and it's like, uh,
sometimes two or three.
yeah.
Uh, I was actually in a training either yesterday or the day before, and they said if you hold your hand up and just trace your fingers, okay, this is breathing in, breathe out, breathe
Yeah.
in, and you go through and you trace your hand, that will buy you enough time to be able to kind of reset your mind and allow you to not react to the way that you are inclined to. So it's a way
Yeah.
to be able to control our emotions. And by controlling our emotions, it's okay to feel what we feel, right? But we don't have to react based on those feelings.
Hmm.
We have the obligation to treat others with respect. And emotions are never going to allow us to treat one another with respect. So by taking that pause, understanding what I'm feeling right now is an emotional response, not a logical one, that will allow us to be able to reset our brains, go into that logical place. And, hey, what you just said to me, uh, I'm not sure if I heard that right, because what I'm feeling based on that is this. Did I hear you correctly? When you can approach a situation like that, that allows that bond to be able to happen and say, well, no, that's not what I meant at all. So now
Yeah.
communication is happening. Now that person feels respected. They're not getting that emotional blast of, why did you just say that? And that causes them to be defensive, and it causes a rift. But if you can respectfully go to somebody else and communicate what your feelings are without, being all flowery and, having tears and all that. I'm not saying that we have to do that, but we can be respectful.
Yeah,
And
you have to feel your emotions. Just
yes,
you can't like you can't communicate like fully properly when you're in a purely emotional state, I think.
100% correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that whole side of your brain that has logic and can
Yeah, it's
remove
like
the
shut
emotion
off.
part,
Yeah.
that's completely shut off. So, yeah, that goes back again to that point. of finding the good in everybody that you meet, because who knows, they
Mm,
might have just had a really bummer of a morning, or maybe they had a bad couple of weeks. Maybe they just, I was talking to somebody just at dinner last night who had lost their mother recently.
yeah.
Those are difficult situations, but without being able to have that understanding, there's no way that you're going to be able to progress, to move that conversation forward
Hmm.
and find that. But if you're looking for the good and you understand the hard circumstances, that gives you the ability to be that influence in somebody else's life, where you will have the impact when you say, hey, leaders are readers. 15 years later, that person is going to have their life changed because of what you said today.
So I want to know more about that moment. Like you were in this career that it sounds like it maybe paid well, it took care of you, your family, and then you were in that for 15 years. How did you finally make that transition? Because any like big job change or career change is a huge transition and can be hard to navigate. So how
Mm.
did you navigate that and do what you're doing now where you're more fulfilled and happy and yeah.
Well, it definitely didn't feel like this at the time, but that change happened to me, and it was the best thing that ever happened.
Mm,
Why I say it didn't feel good at the time is I was actually in the energy sector when that happened. I was working on automated equipment in the oil fields.
mm.
And yes, I was making a very respectable income at the time. And in 2016 is when that happened. So it was, what, 8 years ago. Um, when that happened, there were zero jobs left in my region of the country that
Mm,
I was qualified to do. So a friend of mine, I was going to church, and one of the friends at that church said, "I can get you on with this software company," or it was actually a computer company, and just in their software department.
mm,
So I went to work for that company, and that process, I had lost 86% of my income. So now
mm,
I'm at risk of losing my house. My wife, we had some very difficult discussions about finances, and I was worried about my kids, and I had no idea what I could be doing. But I went into this department. I didn't know the first thing about computers. I didn't know anything about software or why it would need to be licensed. I knew nothing about this new industry. I had never worked in a building or in an office. I'd always been outside in the elements and fighting that hot Texas and Oklahoma weather that you're familiar with, and putting my life at risk every day. I'd gone from that situation to working in a corporate office,
mm,
and I learned a different type of work, and it was a very steep learning curve. Going from working with my hands and understanding electronics and mechanics and hydraulics and all of the controllers and everything that goes into robotics automation, I had gone to picking up a phone and trying to sell somebody software, which was a radical transition. When you become a thought worker, it's a lot different than being an engineer.
mm,
It was a hard transition, but all of those years, that 15 years of reading those personal growth books that I didn't even know that I had retained the knowledge, all of a sudden came to the front of my mind. And
uh,
because I had followed that advice, leaders are readers,
mm,
and I had read so many books on so many different topics, all of a sudden that it was just a flood of memory coming back to me. Oh, well, this is what you're supposed to do in this environment. So I was very fortunate to have that mentor in my life. Year, I think he was maybe in my life 6 months, but it was just that repetition. Leaders are readers, leaders are readers, leaders are readers, that allowed me the ability to prepare myself unknowingly for this thing. So part of it was just dumb luck, but the other part is I wanted to succeed. I knew I couldn't fail at this new career, and it was that You used the term earlier that that pain situation that
Mm.
I forget the word that you used, but
Suffering. Sometimes
suffering.
in
Yeah,
moments of suffering are the biggest opportunities to reflect and opportunities for growth.
yeah, man, was I suffering? So I couldn't fail, and I made success happen, uh, despite the fact that I was on my heels, if not flat on my back, for that period. And then here I am, just under a decade later, and I run the entire Eastern U.S. for a software company, and they fly me all over the world to train people to do what I've learned to do. And
Mm.
a lot of that is because I haven't stopped reading books. I still have a huge list of books that I've read, and it keeps growing. I'm discovering new authors, and I'm attending lectures and keynotes and conferences and things like that, because what you can invest into yourself mentally will pay off in your career or in any other occupation that you have.
Yeah.
And you've got to invest in yourself. Because you are your life's byproduct. You have to make that investment. Otherwise,
Yeah.
there's another saying: if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not
Mm.
feeding yourself more information, you're putting yourself in a worse and worse situation. So pick up,
Yeah.
read, do what you
I
have to
think
do.
reading is like exercise for the mind, you know,
100% it is.
and people don't read anymore. It's like,
Well, and that begs the question: are audiobooks still considered reading? I say yes. I am an
oh yeah,
auditory.
I listen like 90% of my books that I read, I really listen to. The other
I've got
10% are like
huge.
ones I really want to like see the pages and stuff.
Yeah, I've got a huge Audible account, and that allows me to turn my car into an online office. Or if I'm taking a flight to the East Coast or the
Oh
West
yeah,
Coast
any
this week,
commute. Yeah.
I throw in my AirPods and I'm listening to whatever book I happen to be listening to, and then I've got a tablet that I take notes on, so I'll be jotting down
Mm.
notes as I'm going through doing that, uh, or whatever. But it becomes a mobile university when you're doing it that way. And yeah, as long as you're getting the information, that's the important part. Now, my book isn't yet available on Audible, so
You
so
got an Audible, man. You got to read it.
that's gonna happen this winter. I've got a recording studio in my house, and I'll have a little bit
Oh,
of time at
nice.
home, so I'll be able to actually get that done. But right now, it's available on Amazon, or if you run into me somewhere, you can get a copy that way as well. But
So
yeah,
where
we're
are
having
you
some.
now, man? Where are you like how do you feel now? Like do you have any like plans for the future? Stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, I've got some very big goals. I have two careers that I'm running simultaneously right now. I've got the one where I work for somebody else, and the one where I work for myself. And both are actually doing really well. In my career, one of my wise goals is I want to be a chief customer officer.
Hmm.
Like I said, my purpose is to uplift and enrich the lives of other people. That can help me do that through the product that whatever company I'm with provides. I'm creating that good customer experience, but I also have the ability to influence hundreds of employees through different departments and help them move their careers forward. That's just fun to me. And when you can get paid to have fun, that's great.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
the the other side is my business. So I have a professional speaking business. I talk to colleges and I talk to businesses about those career choices. For the colleges, it's I focus on two different audiences. One is for the very young students who don't have a career yet, and the other is for um, that career change or that mid career student,
Hmm.
to help them be able to swing that corporate ladder to another building and make decisions that are going to enrich their lives. The other side is to professional audiences. I'll engage with board members or with executives and going keynote at their company's events, because it's really investing in the employees of those companies to be able to make sure that they're being cared for, nurtured, and growing. When that happens within an organization, the whole organization thrives, because you get people going in the direction that fulfills them and makes them satisfied, which if you can do that in your job, you're going to be much more productive. Where my business will ultimately go, I don't necessarily need to be a professional speaker my whole life. In the professional speaking community, one of the biggest challenges is all of the administrative functions. So my company, the Dash Legacy, in the next 5 years, where we're going to be is we are going to create an infrastructure that can provide services for those speakers, from web hosting to marketing to advertising to sales and accounts receivable, and all of the things that they don't necessarily want to do on their own, we will do with them.
Oh
So we'll
yeah.
actually build a bureau of speakers that can engage, as long as they're in line with the values that we have as an organization. So both are happening simultaneously. It's a very exciting time in my life. And like I said earlier, the one thing that happened recently was the book. I never expected that published author would be part of my credentials, but it's here and it's real.
Does it feel good?
I don't know what it feels like yet. It's still very new and
Still
surreal.
brewing.
But the response when I tell somebody that I'm an author and I show them my book, the response is almost shut up and take my money, especially when I talk to them about reaching their goals, discovering their purpose. They're like, man, I can't wait to read it. And just this week at the convention that I'm at, I've met people who are global leaders, and I've told them about this, and they've asked me for copies of my book, and it's just such a cool experience. It's very humbling. There's a big responsibility involved with having a book that could change somebody's life for decades, or help them discover something that they've never discovered in themselves. That's a big responsibility. And that's where I have some reservation. But at the same time, this book flowed out of me. It's something that it was just natural for me to do. So I'm very confident that the message is going to be well received.
What does success mean to you?
Success is the achievement of your life's purpose. A lot of people tend to define success as money or status. Those things can be part of success, but they aren't necessarily success in themselves. Being able to have a healthy family, being able to have stable relationships, and again, my purpose is to uplift and enrich the lives of everybody I meet. If I can have that moment where I am that person who has the influence in somebody else's life, that's success. If my children grow up to be productive members of society and can find their purposes and live them, that's success to me. This November, my wife and I celebrate 20 years of marriage. That is success to me, because we've been able to keep that stable.
Congrats. That's
Thank
hard,
you.
man.
There have been some very, very hard years,
That is
but
hard.
there's been some extremely good ones also.
Yeah.
But another thing, if I can help somebody walk off the edge of that cliff, maybe they've lost a job, or maybe they've gone through some trauma and they're struggling. If I can help them navigate that situation and get their life back on track, that's success. And if I get paid for it, okay. But if I don't get paid for it, you know what? That's okay too. Success isn't money. Of course, we all need money to survive. Money is not the worst thing in the world, but if we can put our focus on our purpose and on supporting one another, that to me is success.
Yeah, I think when it comes to money, we just have to let go of this like greed factor, because I feel like people who chase money, it's like there's never enough. It's like you'll never have enough. Like I seen this Alex Hormozy post where he was like, yeah, I had a billionaire friend, and he was talking to me, and he said, yeah, I just still I need more. It's like, man, you're a billionaire. Like, when is enough enough? You know, it's like, is that your purpose? Like, just to chase money your entire life? And to me, I'm not gonna like hate on that purpose, but to me, it wouldn't fulfill me to just chase money my entire life, you know?
I have chased money before, and I've made a very, very good income in the past. Um, and it's what I found with myself is when I was chasing money, I just found myself angry all the time.
Mm,
Because, like you said, there was never enough. I was always looking for how do I get more? How do I get more?
mm-hmm.
When I stopped doing that, it's almost ironic. I ended up getting more money,
Yeah,
but I'm happier because I'm helping other
yeah,
people. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and my reward has been financial, which is great. But there also comes a point when you're not focused on money. You look at your bank account and you say, wow, what am I going to do with this?
yeah,
So,
exactly. Like, you can only have so many things, you know?
right. So that's when it gets into giving generously and, being philanthropic or supporting things that are passionate to you, or helping a family member or a friend who's going a hard time or going through a hard time financially. When you're
Mm-hmm.
gifted money as a result of chasing your purpose, use that for good. You don't have to always go have the nicest car or the bigger house. Uh, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying those things are bad. If you can afford it and live within your means, and that's something that can make you happy, or you can use that to fulfill your purpose, great, go for it. But money for the sake of having money isn't going to enrich your life. It's not going to make you feel good. Yes, you can go have some fun and have those moments of feeling good, but do you feel joy? Do you feel fulfillment? Do you feel like you're contributing to something bigger? If you can't
Yeah,
say yes to all of that, then you're chasing the wrong thing.
yeah. To me, I think there's a threshold to the happiness money gives you. Like, I think once you like make enough, or your your basic needs are taken care of, you have some things that you always wanted that make you happy. I think there's only so much of that, you know, there's like a threshold, and then after you pass that threshold, it's like you start to lose the purpose behind it.
Right.
Um,
It's a point of diminishing return.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And once you have that high income, then what you have to do to maintain it becomes more and more and more work. And that causes more
Mm,
stress, and it leads to health problems. And it does actually create a negative situation in your family by always pursuing that extra money versus
yeah.
always pursuing your purpose. And is, like I said, a very strange thing. When I started pursuing my purpose rather than pursuing money, I got promoted twice, and my income has gone up, my wealth has gone up, but I'm also really happy with what I do every day because I look at the lives of the people who I'm impacting, and with my day job, I see how my customers are able to have more peace of mind when they go to bed at night, knowing that they're safe because of what my product does. And when I engage with audiences and I know that I've changed the life of at least one person in that room, if not dozens, that is a really fulfilling moment for me. And my bank account just keeps getting bigger, but that's not my focus. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Uh, in fact, my wife and I are considering moving. Just let's downsize. Let's we don't
Yeah.
we don't need all this stuff. It's fun. It's great. We love the neighborhood that we live in. We love our friends, and our cars work, which is a blessing in itself. But is it worth pursuing something that's that much more?
Yeah,
And
there's
I've discovered for myself the answer is no.
there's this Kanye West song where he had this line. I forget the exact line, but it was like, "Yeah, I have like a $10 million home, but uh, I'm never there and it's empty or something."
Mm,
And I
yeah.
was like, man, that's
Yeah. It's a really interesting observation. And when you can surround yourself with people that are going to feed into your lives, feed into your life, and you can feed into theirs, um, does the size of the house matter? Does the type of car that you're in matter? If you're sitting around sharing a meal with somebody that just makes you feel great about being a human being, or when you have the ability to see the impact that you've had in somebody else's life,
mm,
all of that material stuff goes out the window. It's really about connecting with people. It's about having those relationships. It's about um, being the change that somebody else needs. And when you're focused on that, it doesn't really matter if, like, some of my best friends differ with me on very, very significant areas.
mm,
Um, like, I've got some very
politics,
friends, like politics. Yeah.
religion.
I've got people who are friends of mine that have different political, religious, or uh, whatever views, right? They're different income status, different, all the things that society says that we shouldn't be friends, but we still respect one another. We still really enjoy one another's company. We just know that we have those differences, but that's okay. Differences are there for a reason. Like I said at the very beginning of this call, it's our differences that we should celebrate. If
Mm.
everybody was the same, this would be a really boring world.
Yeah, and just having an understanding and compassion behind those differences. Like it's okay to have a different opinion. It's not the end of the world. And I think right now in current times, it's like you have these extremists where it's like it's you have the opposite view, so you need to like go jump off a cliff and die or something. It's like,
Right.
man, like no, you don't. You just try to at least understand their side or their point of view. You don't have to go die just because you have a different point of view.
That's right. Just because you and I disagree on something does not make us enemies. It just means we have a different lens that we see the world through. That's it. Now,
Yeah.
let's go get a burger and enjoy one another. So
That's so hard today, man. Like if you ever
it
go on
is.
social media, if you ever like look at a political post on social media and you like what I like to do, I like to just like go through the comments and just like read the comments. And that's like the comment section of a political post is like proof of like the state of the minds of the people on social media and the huge division. And it's just, yeah, it's so much hate. There's I think it's good to have some of like the trolls on there because it kind of like lets your guard down where it's like it's not that like it's not that crazy, to have a different opinion. So I
Right.
I I support some of the trolling on there because I think humor could let people's guards down and not make it as so extreme all the time.
That's an interesting viewpoint. I don't think I've ever heard anybody celebrate trolling before, but I like it. It's different.
No, because like if you think about it, like not all trolls are like good. Like you have the trolls where they're just like doing it just for their own selfish like laugh or to make somebody feel down. But then you have some people who just do it like lightheartedly where it's like it's not that serious. It's like you could just it's not that serious. Like we could uh like we were saying, like understand each other's differences.
Yeah, a little bit more tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
as
like
opposed
cheeky.
to, yeah, rather than going on the offensive and just being a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah,
I can
exactly.
see. Well, I will say on the political note, and this is a plug for another organization, and I'm not affiliated with them, full disclosure, but one of my very good friends who I actually disagree with has been running a national campaign, and the group's name is called Braver Angels. What they do is they're trying to unite the red and the blue, and instead of having a
Mm,
rift between the difference of political opinions, really what they're doing is they're trying to find common ground. And
yeah.
what people discover when they become a part of Braver Angels is that their differences aren't as big as they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
You seek understanding with people with opposing viewpoints, and you find that common ground, and the differences are really small and insignificant in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the extreme left or extreme right that are the ones that are unwilling to have that civil
Mm-hmm.
discussion, which is about maybe 5 to 10% on either side.
Mm,
Everybody else, there is common ground, and we don't have to have this division. The
yeah.
job of a politician is to divide. And
And
I heard,
corruption too, man.
well,
Corruption.
there is corruption, yes, but the job is to drive an agenda and to
Mm,
divide mentalities of people and drive that wedge in. And I heard somebody give kind of a funny, speaking of trolling, a funny etymology of politics. Poly means many, and ticks are blood sucking parasites. That's generally
mm,
how I view politics. But people are people. If we can unite and find that common ground and help one another achieve success, however we define success individually, that's what heals our country. That's what mends families and builds relationships. When we can do that and stop the 24/7 news broadcast, which is really
yeah.
designed to incite us or enrage us or trigger us, let's turn that crap off. Let's get off of social media. Let's ignore the politicians and say, hey, what? You're not actually influencing my life in a good way.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and vote you out of office and like do what we're supposed to do. If we did that, the world would be a much different place. Politics has to exist. We have to have government
Yeah.
to be able to protect our national interests and make sure that we're not subject of attack. But beyond that, we don't have to be where we are as a nation. We don't have to hate people for having a different opinion. If we find that common ground, if we support one another and come alongside one another in moments of challenge or struggle, that's where we really heal and build our society.
Yeah, I just don't think there's in current times, I just don't think there's as much people with um as much influence that have that power to find that common ground, you know? Like you have so much influence on either side. There's not like a huge influence on finding a middle ground. And I think that's what we need. We need people with bigger influences to uh, grab the attention of both sides. And I love that idea of the braver angels.
Hmm.
I think we need more of that, you know?
I do too. I stand behind what they do, even though I'm not affiliated with them.
Yeah.
One of my very good friends is helping to lead that drive. There are people that are out there who have that influence.
Hmm.
That's what leadership is. Leadership doesn't mean that you're a politician.
Hmm.
I think that's a very misguided definition of politician. If we stop looking to news media and politicians as our leaders and start looking for people who actually have the ability to positively influence society, if we shift our viewpoint and look to different people, you'll discover that there are a lot of people out there who can make that kind of change. But you've got to shift that focus. Like I said, when I set that original goal for myself, I had set the wrong goal. And
Mm.
I had to go through a process to understand that. Well, the same thing happens when you're looking at leaders. What if you're looking at the wrong leader?
Yeah, and blindly following. I think that's dangerous. The
Very much so.
blindly following. Like, I think you should, they have that what's that saying? Have blind faith, like in Christianity. Like we don't walk by sight, we walk by faith, to have blind
Mhm.
faith. I think if you had that mindset towards that, that's good, but having blind faith in politicians is, it's like walking down the wrong path, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, speaking of faith, that's one thing that people have stopped looking at is looking
Yeah.
at the fact that there is a creator who has a plan that's bigger than our country, that's bigger than politics, that's bigger than any person. If we have faith in somebody who, works all things for good, that is something that can help solve a lot of problems also. And uh, yes, it can be a struggle to believe in something that you can't necessarily see, taste, touch, or feel. But when you study, when you lean in, when you actually intellectually, honestly look for truth, and you look in the Bible for that truth, it's there. You'll discover that it is real. But you
Yeah.
have to have an open enough mind to be able to look for that and uncover it, and realize for yourself that, yeah, this is where I need to plant my faith. If we planted our faith in the creator of the universe, God, if we put our faith there, that will allow us to see more clearly the deceit that is in our society, whether it's politicians or, like I said, media. There's a lot of bad players out there, or businesses that tell us the wrong thing through marketing, or even lies that people in our lives tell us. If we're grounded in faith, that will allow us to be able to discern what's real, what's not, and what's good and what's evil.
Yeah, and I think you have to have this discernment between what's good and not good. And I think the people who are the rationalists, who have this rationalist mind where they need proof for everything, it's like, how do you like explain intuition, or how do you explain like radio waves and like Wi-Fi, or like crap you can't see? Like, how do you explain all that? And I don't know. I just think having this rationalist mind, like, it's just more confusing to me.
Right. Well, there are arguments that I could make, and actually, I put one in my book because uh, as I'm resolving chapter 2 on abuse, I give options to the readers on different areas that they can look. Whether that be therapy or support groups or organizations that are there. But one of them that I put in also because of how I land in life is faith. And for the first couple of decades of my life, I was actually an atheist, and I was a fairly hardcore one.
Mm,
And then I went through an event, which I prefer not to go into today, but there was an event that happened that drew me to faith.
mm,
And now I look at I look at some of the arguments that are made, and I look at um, some of the counter faith arguments, and they just don't stack up where the faith arguments do. And
yeah.
you get somebody says, well, I believe in science. Well, great, God created science, what's your point? But they say, well, science disproves God, but they're ignoring some of their own laws. Like the example I use in the book is the law of the conservation of angular momentum,
Mm,
which means if you're spinning something in a zero gravity situation and something breaks off, the broken off element will continue to spin in the same direction as the original object. So if you look at the Big
mm,
Bang, when that happened, it created that motion. But if you look at our own solar system, there's some moons of, I think it's Saturn, the planet Venus. They spin in the opposite direction as everything else,
mm,
which means that disproves the concept of the Big Bang, that everything came from a singular point, because otherwise that
mm.
law was broken just by our own solar system, and we're just a speck in the universe.
For real.
So if we're
We're
doing
so
that, if we're
tiny.
having that faith
Yeah.
versus non-faith argument, let's open our minds and look at all of the possibilities rather than assuming that the point that we started with is the actual truth. once that changed for me, I started looking at things a little bit differently. And I said, wow, well, this doesn't stack up, but this actually does. This makes more sense.
Yeah.
And this can cause another very, very long dialogue that I don't think either of us have time for this morning.
No, yeah, religion is huge. I just think if you have some sort of faith, um, you will have more guidance and more direction in life opposed to if you don't. That's like my perspective from it.
I agree with you completely.
But before we move on, you you speak a lot, right?
Yes.
So how do you get over this like stage fright? Like any advice for people who maybe want to speak more publicly, and how do you get over this like fear?
Well, first of all, you don't get over the fear. The fear is always going to be there. It's a very natural thing. There was an event I was keynoting at a couple of months ago, and I've given hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
Yeah.
of speeches. And I went to this event. I got up, and I was so glad I was wearing an undershirt because I swore people could see the river of
Oh,
sweat
you're
coming off.
sweating. Yeah.
And it wasn't a hot room. It was snowing outside when I was doing that. So it was, the fear is always going to be there, but how you can control that fear is just through practice, right?
Mm,
There's an organization called Toastmasters International that
mm,
it is the least expensive education you'll ever get. And they're global. They're in 150 different countries. They've got about 300,000 members around the world. So I would say go to toastmasters.org and find some information about where you can plug into a local group. You're going to pay less than $200 a year for education, and you get all the stage
mm,
time you want. They'll help you to be able to construct speeches, and there's projects that they'll have you go through to deal with different scenarios. That's
mm,
where I got started. And
mm,
I've given, I don't think I've hit 1,000 speeches yet, but I'm definitely in the multiples of hundreds. Um, but that's also prepared me to be able to get on bigger stages and speak to
yeah.
larger audiences, more professional audiences. I'm keynoting another big event in Chicago in just a couple of weeks for an organization, and I have more events in widespread areas because I have that experience. I understand how to construct content in a way that's digestible. Um, when you can insert a little bit of humor into it, when you can use storytelling to get your points across, and you really know your content, that gives you confidence. And
Yeah.
the other pieces, and I would encourage us to you and everybody in your audience, um, you have a voice, you have a story, and other people want to hear it.
Mm,
When you can get on that stage, or you can get in a podcast type environment and share that story and share your voice, that's going to resonate with somebody. Somebody wants to hear what you have to say. Um, Toastmasters is a great spot to go
yeah.
get that muscle memory. You're always going to feel the fear. It's always, you're going to have those butterflies in your gut.
Yeah.
Your knees are going to shake a little bit. That's okay. That wears off after about 90 seconds, by the way, once you're on the stage.
Oh,
And
really?
then you get to share your story. And the more practice you get, the easier it becomes, just like riding a bicycle.
Well, I know, like I've watched like a Tony Robbins event before, and he has this like mini trampoline thing that he like jumps on for like I don't know a couple minutes before he does his like huge 10-hour long like events.
Yeah,
Um,
Tony Robbins is a ball of energy, man. His events are spectacular.
yeah, and I think Les Brown is another one that I listen to. Who I think
I
he has a
actually saw him
background.
this morning, as a matter of fact.
You seen Les Brown?
Yeah, this morning.
He's over there.
Sure is.
What the heck? Yeah, like I think he started in Toastmasters too. Like he started giving his big speeches and then he just like got huge. But I listen
Yeah.
to him a lot and his stories. They're pretty inspiring as well.
Yeah. Les Brown, he did start in Toastmasters as a world champion in public speaking, and then he went on to have one of the most groundbreaking speaking careers. He really put the paving stones in place for people like me to be able to
Hmm.
go do something from scratch. He did a lot of the groundwork to make that happen. He's just a fantastic human being.
Well, do you have anything you'd like to share with the audience before we move to the conclusion?
Uh, I want to wrap certainly with this. You are special. You are unique. You were put here on this planet for a very specific purpose. When you can figure out what that purpose is, it'll change your life. My hope is that if you pick up my book, that you'll be inspired to be able to find that little thread that connects all of your big goals so that you can discover what that purpose is. You can pick it up on Amazon. Just search for Success Unleashed by J.P. Bachman. Bachman is with two N's. So if you type Success Unleashed, it'll probably show up there. You can get it on Kindle Unlimited for free. I think the paperback is $20, and I think if you read on Kindle, it's like $8. So it's affordable. It's a quick and simple read. I put it into very much a storytelling format. So hopefully my story and the stories of the people that are interviewed and put into the book will resonate with you and connect with you to let you know that no matter what your circumstances or status in life or what your career looks like, what your family looks like, the abuses that you've suffered in the past, those are things that you can mitigate, you can deal with, and you can use as ammunition or fuel to move forward toward your purpose. But lean in, discover that purpose, understand that you have value and worth, and I want to hear your story.
Well, at the end of every one of my podcasts, I have a set of questions I ask every guest and a card game we play. And I already pulled out some cards from the card game, and the cards create a question.
Okay.
And the
That sounds
first
like fun.
question, yeah, it's completely randomized. Um, so if you can read this, so it goes blue and then white together.
Share something crazy my relationship to my body is. In my book, I talk about a couple of tattoos that I have. One is on my right wrist that says "Enjoy the journey." The other one's on my left wrist that says "Trust the process." But
Hmm.
I've got a really crazy goal of getting a tattoo in all 50 of the United States, and I've got at this point 10 tattoos from 9 different states. And I don't know why I set that goal. It's a really crazy goal, but I am a tattoo enthusiast. But no, I'm not going to put them on my
On your
hands or face
face,
because
yeah.
I still like being employable.
Yeah, that does make a difference. Like people don't realize it really does.
They're not going to hire too many professional speakers that have questionable judgment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. The tattoos are real.
Is it gonna be like a sleeve or what?
No, actually, I'm going to do a hex design on my legs. So I'll have hexagons, and each hex is going to have something about that state in them, and I'm going to wrap my legs.
Oh, so you're gonna
So
have like leg sleeves.
yeah, on my thighs, yes.
I don't have any tattoos, man.
It's a personal choice. I don't know why I got addicted to them, but I'll tell you, if you start, you're going to want another one and another one and another one.
Yeah,
So
that's what they people
beware.
always say. Yeah. Well, that was interesting. So I have 5 final questions I ask every guest. They can be quick or you can dive deeper into them. My first question is, what is your biggest regret?
My biggest regret. I try not to live my life in a way that I have regrets.
Hmm.
There are certain things that I wish might have happened a little bit differently, but everything that I've done has built me into who I am today. Um, the missteps and the mistakes that I've made have made me stronger. The suffering that I've gone through has served as an education. Um, there are times I wish I would say things a little bit differently, but I'm also very fortunate that I have people around me who are very forgiving and willing to help me work through those situations.
Mm,
Uh, Everything that I've done has put me in a position to where I can help other people. So I don't regret even the bad things that have happened in my life. I don't regret those because they've equipped me to be able to help somebody else who's going through a similar situation. So I would say I have no regrets.
I like that. My next question is, who or what has made the biggest impact in your life that makes you who you are today?
Oh, there's been so many, but one stands out above the rest. Um, in my first attempt at college, which by the way wasn't successful, the story's in the book. Uh, there was one professor. Growing up, I was abused. Like I said, it was all psychological. I was very fortunate that it wasn't otherwise, but that came at home. It came with the fact that I was bullied as a child severely to the point where it led to being suicidal. And when I got into college, I believed that I wasn't good, that I didn't have value. I believed I was stupid, and I had
Mm,
a real hard time building relationships with other people.
yeah.
And there was one professor at that little community college in Vancouver, Washington, that I went to. The man's name was Mike Arnold. And I couldn't tell you anything that he did to have this influence on my life, but he drew something out of me. It was almost like he flipped a switch. And that helped me realize that there were a lot of parts of my life that weren't correct in my own belief of myself. And
Mm,
it was in that little health and fitness class that he was teaching that I went from being a very self conscious introvert to an extrovert. I think it was
mm,
there the whole time. I just didn't know it. And he gave me confidence in my own skin and helped set me on the path to becoming the man that I am today. So if you're listening, Mike, thank you. You are easily one of the biggest milestone people that's ever come into my life. And I'm very, very grateful for you.
Do you remember like if it was anything specifically that he said that sparked this in you?
I don't know. It might have just been his personality. I remember I was in martial arts at the time.
Yeah.
So it was really flexible. And like I said, it was a health and fitness class. And I remember one event. Um, he was the basketball coach for the men's basketball team at the college, and he was teaching a lecture on how stretching works and how muscle fibers work when you're developing flexibility.
Mm.
And he was up on a whiteboard writing something, and the pen wouldn't write, so he just kind of chunked it toward the garbage can, and he missed by a mile. And I was in the front row of his class, and I said, "Man, you're the basketball coach?" And talk
Oh.
about one of those moments where you trigger somebody. This guy just started
Uh,
shaking and he turned around and he screamed, "Who said that?" And he was just like, he was bright red and just so angry. And I said, "I did. What are you going to do about it?"
oh.
And I remember he pulled me up on the class. He sat me down on this table and he was going to show me this really dynamic stretch. And he said, "Reach down and try to touch your toes." I was extremely flexible at the time. So I just reached over my toes and grabbed my heels and picked my feet up off the table. And that de-escalated him so quick. He was like, "Man, you suck. Go sit down." But it was the willingness to show that emotion, but also be humble and uh,
Yeah.
and have compassion. And he understood where I was. He was just a really, really cool man to be around. But he also challenged me on some things and helped me to view the world in a different way. And I think it was just that consistency while I was in his course that it showed me that I didn't have to live life the way that I was living it. And he was able to
Mm.
draw some really, really good material out of me. Um,
He
so,
inspired you.
yeah, I don't think it
Yeah.
was any one thing, but it was just him.
Like
He
just
was
being
a
around
great,
him
great
all the
person.
time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true though, like that saying, like, be around the 5 people and you'll like eventually be influenced by that as well.
Yeah. You are the sum of your 5 closest friends.
Yeah. I love that story, man. My next question is, what is one lesson that you had to learn the hard way?
One lesson that I had to learn the hard way. You mean I got to pick just one?
Yeah.
um, it's actually a story that we shared a little bit earlier in this conversation. Chasing money does not mean that you're going to be happy. It
Hmm.
just means that you're going to have more money. I spent the better part of my first career chasing money, and I was miserable. My family was miserable, and it just deteriorated relationships everywhere I went.
Hmm.
And understanding that God is in control and money isn't where I needed to put my focus, I went through some really, really difficult times to learn that lesson. And finally, I'd been dragged through the mud enough that I just didn't care anymore. And I stopped looking at money as my source of validation.
Uh,
And as
yeah,
soon as that happened, my life radically changed.
it's
And
crazy.
it took me years to come to that conclusion. And I'm thankful that I did, because some people never get there.
Yeah.
But we went through some really, really dark, difficult times along that path.
Mm.
There were several times where I was thinking about bankruptcy, and or there was one point we got an eviction notice from an apartment that we were living in because we just
Mm-hmm.
couldn't pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was so focused on money that I thought that was going to solve the problem, which is ironic considering I got evicted because I couldn't pay. Um, but as soon as that focus changed, all the problems went away. It was an amazing turnaround in my life, and I'm I don't know how it happened, but it did, and I'm grateful for it.
This is kind of a funny question, but what would you want to experience in life if you had all the time and all the money that you ever needed?
Wow, that is kind of a fun one. I would like to. I've been blessed to be able to travel quite a bit, and it's fun because I've been to several different countries with very, very different cultures, and every time I get to grow a lot. I would love to be able to travel and visit every country on the planet and learn their cultures and grow from them. Uh, it's kind of a selfish want because I'm not necessarily helping others with that, but um, like
That's okay.
for example, I went to Greece a couple of years ago and I got to see Greek culture, which was amazing. I got to go
Mm,
to India here recently, and I was mortified by their hospitality. They were just such giving, wonderful people.
mm,
Um, and in America we have everything and we give nothing. In India they have nothing and they give everything. That's what I
it's
mean by
crazy. Yeah.
mortified by hospitality. They're just great people. Um, the more places that I go, the more I realize that people have the same wants, desires, and interests. They
Yeah.
just go about them a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And the more I travel, the more humble I become about myself, and I love the growth that comes with travel.
No, I love it too because I mean, I think a lot of people love traveling, but I think, it opens your mind more to the differences, but also the similarities, because we're all humans, like we're all human beings, we're all humans, like ethnicities. Today we're all humans.
Exactly. Exactly right.
My final question, you kind of covered it already, uh, but just, is there any last thing you'd like to share with whoever's listening?
Just be kind to one another. If you're looking at superficial differences, then you're looking at the wrong spot. People can't control their ethnicity, their national background, their skin color. Those things don't matter. What matters is what's in our hearts, right? If you try to find the best in other people and you try to serve them, it's going to enrich your life, it's going to enrich their lives, and it's going to make the world a better place.
JP Bachman, everybody. Go check out his book, Success Unleashed. Where's it at?
It's on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle or just regular Amazon. Success Unleashed, Mastering Your Life's Purpose. Just look for the birds and look for JP Bachman. You'll be on the right spot.
And the audio book will be out.
Hopefully early next year. I'm not going to give a date yet because that's a lot of time.
So yeah, if you're listening to this later, it'll be out next year. So go check that out as well. But yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure.
Bye, everybody. Peace.